A woman never belongs to you. It's just your turn. Of course her parents don't have a problem with me being black. She's past the wall. Get your fat ass off the couch, start lifting weights, and learn game. You're welcome.
So you got drunk at a frat party, then fucked the football team? You're not a rape victim, sweetheart.
You're a slut.
What's up, guys? It's your man Donovan Sharp, and welcome to this edition of TSR Live. Follow me at Donovan_Sharp on Twitter, and if you want to listen to past episodes, you can go to my website, thesharpreality.com. You can also go to iTunes, SoundCloud, and the Google Play app on your mobile device, and of course, right here on YouTube. There are now 3 ways you can contribute to the show. Number 1, you can contribute to the show by contributing via PayPal at the bottom of my homepage. Number 2, you can bookmark the Amazon link at the top of my homepage and do all your Amazon shopping through that link. And now the third way is through Patreon. Just go to patreon.com/Donovan Sharp. If you have questions, comments, show ideas, or personal stories you'd like to share, you have 2 ways to do that. You can either go to the contact tab on my homepage, or you can tweet at the show, hashtag TSR Live with Donovan Sharp. So that's hashtag TSR Live with Donovan Sharp. Drop me your thoughts at that point. iTunes listeners, make sure you guys leave a review if you want to support the show. And if you're listening on YouTube, be sure to hit that like button. I try to get 100 likes per episode. I got 125 likes last time, so I certainly appreciate the likes there and the love there. So, men going their own way, otherwise known as MGTOW, it's acquired a sizable following over the past few years, and it continues to gain steam in the face of the increasingly toxic environment fueled by feminism. We all know this. Men are opting out of everything, relationships, marriage, etc., in large numbers because they're starting to understand that they have little to gain by being another cog in the gynocentric machine. They don't have anything to gain by working a 9-to-5 cubicle job only to get married to a woman who's going to get fat in 7 years and end up having an affair, cheating on him, taking his 3 kids away, and now while she keeps the house, he's living in inefficiency. More and more men are starting to open their eyes and wake up to this stuff. Now, for those of you who don't really know yet, the term MGTOW is loosely defined as men who've decided to go their own way, and that they've sworn off dating, consumerism, and really the overall narrative that vilifies us as men and glorifies women. Now, just so we're clear, guys, there are many levels of MGTOW out there. They're not all the same. A lot of them stay in great shape. They are goal-oriented. They still fuck a lot of women. And they never consider a marriage or long-term relationship. At the other end of the spectrum, you have low-level or bottom-of-the-barrel MGTOWs who get fat, live with their parents, work a minimum wage job that requires the least amount of physical and mental effort. They play video games from sunup till sundown, and they jerk off every night. They have an online girlfriend or a blow-up doll or whatever. These are the kinds of men who have given up on life. They've completely given up. They've thrown in the towel. These kinds of guys will talk shit about men like myself who like to fuck women, and they call us things like vagina worshipers. They want everyone to believe that if you're a man with a healthy sexual appetite, you are a slave to the vagina or the pussy or whatever they say. They also like to say things like they like to say stuff like going after girls isn't worth it, so I don't even bother, which we all know is code for I can't get laid, so I'm going to tell people I would fuck girls if I wanted to cover up the fact that I couldn't get laid in a brothel. You guys get the point. Now, there are many other levels in between, but again, you guys get the point. You understand what MGTOW is. Anyway, black men seem to be going MGTOW at a higher rate than any other race, at least in this area of the world, in the Western Hemisphere of the U.S. While each of these men have their own personal reasons and experiences that have driven them to this lifestyle, there are a few, if not most, of what they all have in common. So let's go ahead and get right to it. The first thing that they all have in common is that black women are undateable. If you guys listen to episode 97, it's no secret how I feel about black women within the context of a sexual relationship. As I stated in my last episode 97, not surprisingly, I catch a lot of heat from black women. I catch a lot of heat from their army of sexless simps. They talk about how I'm a race traitor, a sellout, a house nigger, etc., whatever. I mean, I've been called this stuff before. It just rolls off my back. But listen, facts are facts, guys. Black women are not only the lowest on the sexual totem pole in terms of aesthetic attractiveness, they're the lowest quality significant others out there. Between all of the baggage that comes standard with just about all of them, like like having multiple kids, their attitude problems, their overt masculinity, and of course their fucking laughable entitlement complexes, it's no wonder that black men are starting to check out. The better a man improves himself, okay, the more these black women seem to want. If you're in great shape, it's, well, why don't you have abs? If you make a great living, why don't you earn more? If you have a decent place to live, they say, well, why don't you live in that exclusive uptown community? If you have a decent ride, they say, well, why don't you have a BMW or Mercedes? Black women have unrealistic expectations, and no matter how high your value is, they always want more. I mentioned in my last episode that black women have no interest in building with a man. They want the finished product. In a MGTOW's mind, specifically a black man MGTOW's mind, there's no need to engage in self-improvement activities if it's not going to get him more pussy. No, guys, pussy should never be a man's main goal in life, but we all know it's important. Let's not kid ourselves here. We're men. We like to fuck, and if a man's busting his ass in the gym, if he's busting his ass at work, kicking life's ass and not having success with black women because their standards are too high, at some point they stop caring and they end up going MGTOW, which is the reason why a lot of them are now. The second reason that a lot of these MGTOW brothers are going MGTOW at an increasing rate is that we get shamed. We, as black men, we get shamed for fucking white girls. A natural consequence of the severe lack of black women to get with, marry, date, fuck, whatever, is that black men are eventually going to find greener pastures with other races of women. That's just a natural that's just a natural consequence. Now, personally, I've dated a shitload of Mexican girls, most of them here in Nevada. I fucked a few Dominican girls back east, dated a couple Puerto Rican girls, pretty much any and all Latinas or Hispanic girls, you name them, I fucked them. I fucked Indian girls, Filipino girls, the list goes on and on. I've never fucked an Asian chick. That's actually the one race that's eluded me, and I've never really pursued them. I've never really gone after them. I mean, I've spit game at them in the past, but they're really not my type. So for the most part, I do leave them alone. But getting back to what I was talking about here, what all of those races of women have in common is that in the U.S., they are the minority in terms of race. Which means, of course, that white girls, okay, are the majority. And again, I've fucked scores of white girls. And the reason for that is just because there's just more of them around. Now, I've written articles in the past between Returning Kings and NegroManosphere.com about how men of color can game white women. I've also done podcasts on white girls who only date black guys. Like I said, my last episode, I talked about why I don't really fuck with them anymore. By and large, most people don't seem to care that black dudes like me fuck white girls on the regular, at least not on the outside. But listen, I mean, who knows what they're thinking? Who knows what they're thinking or what they're saying really behind closed doors. But the people who do have opinions on interracial dating between black dudes and white girls have very strong opinions as to why it's wrong or unnatural or whatever it is they say. In other words, if someone doesn't care that black dudes are fucking white girls, they don't say, hey, I'm okay with interracial dating. They see it or hear about it and life goes on. Those who do vocalize their opinions, those are the ones who are diametrically opposed to it. Now, the vast majority of those people won't say anything to these couples in public, but every once in a while, they'll shoot them glances, treat them differently. Like, you can see it in their body language. Listen, my main chick is white. This happens to me all the time. This is part of the gig. It comes with the territory. I'm not complaining. That's just how it is. Now, for black men like myself, we just shrug this shit off and keep it moving. And personally, I couldn't give less of a shit if some black girl or a white dude says something. Because, listen, let's face it. Black girls and white dudes are those are the two demographics and those are the two kinds of people that have the most problems with black dudes fucking white girls. It's black women and white men. That's just how it is. I lost my place here, guys. Give me a second. Okay. Okay. So, most people don't care about whether a black dude is fucking a white girl, and those who do care make it very, very obvious. Now, like I said, men like myself, we see it, we keep it moving, but there are men out there who are affected when they catch heat for dating white girls. Sometimes they catch heat from their families. Sometimes black men who have female friends who shame them or make fun of them for dating white girls. I mean, they get it. They're catching hate from every direction. So a lot of times they go to that extreme low level of MGTOW because they don't want to date black women, but they're afraid to date white girls. They're damned if they do and damned if they don't. Number 3, the third reason that more and more black men are starting to go MGTOW, and this is probably something that you haven't thought of, but I define this as the bipolar definition of success. The black community at large, gentlemen, pushes a bipolar definition of success. You're either going to be wildly successful or you're going to be a bum. There's no in between. Now, to be fair, it's probably not that extreme, but it's clear that if you're not super successful, if you are not rich, you are looked at as a failure in the eyes of the black community. When I was a kid, my mother used to push the get your education narrative ad nauseum. That's all she used to do. And it's so funny. She tries to take credit for my academic achievements. My mom didn't do shit for me academically. All she did is she did what every other black woman out there was saying: get your education, get your education, get your education, blah, 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 blah. She would always say shit like, Donovan, you're not going to be successful if you don't go to college. African Americans, especially in the black community, seem to have this idea that getting a college education is the one and only key to success, and there are no two ways about it. And again, I'm bringing up Tyler Perry again. We see countless Tyler Perry movies showing black men and women in the typical business or executive type roles, driving Range Rovers, living in luxury downtown apartments, owning these big, beautiful homes. And at some point in the movie, it's revealed that they went to XYZ University, and that's the reason for their success. Well, naturally, black men go to college out of high school dreaming of success the minute they walk out, the minute they walk on stage and get their degrees. But like most of us have figured out who have gone to college, as soon as they get out in the real world and discover that the piece of paper they got at their end of their stint in college is just a piece of paper, they have that rude awakening. At some point, they have to work somewhere. So at some point, they end up working somewhere their college degree means nothing. And if they're working in the area that they grew up, people call him a failure and talk about how he never reached his potential simply because he's driving a forklift rather than having a corner office. You see how that works? The guy is probably making $20 an hour driving a forklift, but because he's not working in downtown Atlanta at AT&T making $250 large a year, he's a failure. And then, of course, he's dealing with black women not giving him a chance because he drives a Honda. He spends his money wisely and lives below his means. He drives a Honda rather than driving a Lexus. So a brother works hard, has a decent job, drives a decent vehicle, and lives by himself as opposed to, obviously, with his parents or a relative. And he's looked at as an abject failure by his own people. Thanks to really black feminism, his modest but stable lifestyle doesn't attract females, nor does it provide him with opportunities with women. It's only a matter of time before many of these guys kind of throw up their hands and say, I'm done with this, and they go MGTOW. That's how it works. The fourth and final reason that a lot of black men are going MGTOW these days is too much in-house hate. One of the many reasons I left Atlanta for the second time is the hate that I caught from other black men simply for being who I am, okay? During my first stint in Atlanta, I had a warehouse job, and I quickly rose through the ranks on account of my discipline and solid work ethic. I showed up, I showed up to work every day on time, never missed a day of work ever. The bosses, they noticed very quickly. They promoted me after only 6 months. I was there as just a temp. This was supposed to be like a 3-month, 90-day project. I was promoted after 6 months on the job. So, look, again, not bad for a guy who just moved up from Florida and was originally hired on as a temp. Well, my tenure as the shift supervisor was short-lived because my crew didn't do what they were supposed to do. Here's what happened. One of the few people I'd become friends with at the facility told me that the fix was in to get me out the door and that everyone was in on it. Their plan was to intentionally fall below their daily quotas and that I'd be held responsible, and rightfully so. I'm the leader of the pack, and eventually removed from that position. I resigned the next day and moved back to North Carolina. 7 years later, I gave it another try, and I experienced the same thing. Well, this time I moved to the West Coast, and I haven't looked back since. Me personally, I've experienced this kind of hate from other black men for as long as I can remember. Listen, I'm a good-looking guy. I'm obviously well-spoken. Most people, when they hear me, they're like, "Oh, I can't. This doesn't sound like a black guy." No, I don't sound like the typical black guy. That's fine, whatever. I have a great work ethic. I have a desire to succeed, and for whatever reason, other black men, specifically in Atlanta, they just don't like seeing that kind of stuff. And I know you guys listen and get that kind of hate too. I know that you do. I'm not the only one out there. Now, I could go on about why I think this is and get all into the psychological gymnastics, but I couldn't give less of a shit. At the end of the day, to me, it's sad to see that in a world where we as black men have built-in disadvantages, we can't stand by and raise up even our own. Again, this is one of the major reasons that more and more African American men are going MGTOW. Never mind the shit that they get from sisters on a daily basis, what with their complaining, their unrealistic expectations, their entitlement complexes. Then to have to deal with other black men who hate on them for trying to be better, for trying to do better and be successful, that's debilitating to one's psyche. Unfortunately, most men don't have the balls to pack up and move to another coast where they won't catch so much hate, so they end up going MGTOW. Or they just become a worthless pile of shit like everyone else around them. Like I said before, guys, there are scores of other reasons why black men are completely checking out. And you'll often find that at least one of these four elements are at the core of their rationale for going MGTOW. When black women aren't giving you the time of day despite having a solid, stable job, not living at home, then dealing with the constant disapproval for your lack of, quote, success, then dealing with the hate from other black men when you achieve any level of success, you're either going to fold or you're going to focus. Unfortunately, at this point, it seems that more black men seem to be folding and going MGTOW. And to me, that's very, very sad. That concludes this edition of TSR Live. Make sure you like the video if you're watching on YouTube and leave me a review if you're listening on iTunes. Don't forget to bookmark the Amazon link on our homepage, and if you want to support the show, contribute via PayPal or Patreon. Thanks for listening, guys. Talk to you next time.